This fall, in the tradition of The Help, The Blind Side, and The Butler, comes a new film.
How come the only black movies Hollywood wants to make are ones with black mammies in fat suits?
Or black women in pain, man.
So basically, we got black people dying in the past and black people dying in the present.
Can we have a movie with, characters in them instead of stereotypes wrapped in Christian dogma?
Why is every educated person inherently evil?
Most people are here to see Fang 9. It's got 2 chains in it.
I read your entire 15-page unsolicited treatise on why the Gremlins is actually about suburban white fear of black culture.
The Gremlins are loud, talking slang, are addicted to fried chicken, and freak out when you get their hair wet.
That Gremlins joke was pretty funny. And I think this is a really good idea for a movie, but I think the execution here might be poor. And the reason I say that is because there's so much anger. Now, of course, I think this is an important subject to be addressed, and I also want to loop in kind of this discussion that happened in the comments for my Think Like a Man 2 review, because I think it applies here. Now, there is a problem with the way black characters are portrayed in Hollywood. It's undeniable, but there's a problem with the way female characters are portrayed, Asian characters, Latino characters, everybody but white male characters are a problem. And so every group really needs to get in there and try and fix things. And I think the best way to do that is by making a really good movie, and a movie that does well at the box office. Forget, the only color that Hollywood cares about is green. So, as I said, I think this movie, it's a very funny idea, and when I first heard of this, I said, that piques my interest. But I don't know if I would be able to sit through a film that, as I said, has so much anger in it. Another kind of book that addressed this was Things That White People Like, and it was kind of like a backdoor commentary, pointing out the things that only white people like, and from the voice of, for people of color, how better to relate to white people. And I thought that was very funny. For instance, one of the things that struck me about that book, and if you've never checked it out, you definitely should. For instance, all white people love to eat outside. And I remember Tracy Morgan making a joke about that when he was pretending to be, I think, a white girl. He was like, let's go eat outside. And I was like, I do love to eat outside. And that's done in a fun, upbeat spirit. And I think when you're criticizing something, it's important, if you want to draw people into an argument, don't, scare them away right off the bat. And so that's what I think the problem with this movie is. There's just a lot of anger, and it seems like it's going to be throughout the film. Maybe you can have one angry character, and while what they're saying is very true, it's also funny that they're so angry. That could work. But I think what this movie really needs is a character who, the audience is like, okay, I will listen to you. You're a good middle person for us to discuss this with. I don't want to be yelled at and have accusatory things thrown at me for like an hour and a half. And now the reason I brought up Think Like a Man 2 is that a big argument came out where a lot of people were like, how dare you call Think Like a Man 2 a black movie? It's just a comedy. Why don't you call white movies white, with casts with predominantly white actors, white movies? And as I said to a number of people in the comments there, the reason that is because of who goes to see the movie. And right now, people who are going to see these movies, from Will Packer and Kevin Hart, are predominantly black audiences. And until you get as much of a mix as goes to see the other films that are not called white movies, if only white people went to see them, they'd be called white movies. It's just like when people say something's a chick flick. It's because only women go to see it. And the chick flick is starting to disappear because of films like Frozen and Gravity and The Hunger Games. And I think eventually we'll get to a point where the label black film does disappear. For instance, nobody calls a Will Smith movie a black movie because everybody goes to see his film. It doesn't appeal to only a specific demographic. Now, that's not saying you won't find any other people in the theater, but the vast majority will be a black audience, and so that's why the movies are defined that way. And also, there's very few, there's very little diversity in these films. But I said in my review for Think Like a Man 2 that there was diversity there, and it was moving in that direction. But all the white characters there, you have to remember, are played for laughs, and I think the movie itself is very aware of its race. If you really want to get down to it, that movie is not just painting itself as a comedy and putting itself out there without any race card. There were a number of jokes about white versus black, and jokes that you don't see. White comedies are, if you want to call them that, aren't self-referential. So that's something that also has to go away, I think, if you want to get rid of that label. And I also have to say that a lot of other YouTube channels didn't review Think Like a Man 2, even though it's the #1 movie of the weekend. So I reviewed the film. I was very fair towards it. I even had some people say that I should tell people to see the film no matter what the quality of it was, just to promote, films like this. You guys don't want me to call it a black film, so, but if it's not unique, why do I need to promote it, right? I mean, if it's just like every other movie, it should be judged like every other movie. And as I said in my review, it was a very enjoyable film, but it wasn't something you needed to rush out and go and see in theaters. I said you should see it at some point, but it's not something you need to see right away. So that's also a difficult position you guys are putting me in, telling me that I should, don't say this is a special kind of movie, but you should give it special treatment. So I just feel that, I can understand that you're frustrated, and I can understand that this is something you want to see fixed, and I think it is being fixed. So take heart in that. But I would also tell you, do you want me not to review Think Like a Man 2, like the other channels? Do you want me just to ignore it so that you guys don't jump on me when I'm just pointing out things that are obvious? And also, if you don't like the fact that these movies are called black movies, the other movies aren't called white movies, then don't go and see the other movies, because the reason they're not categorized is because everyone goes to see them. So that if you don't want that to be the case, don't make it the case. Don't go see films like Godzilla that have an entirely white cast, because then they're not categorized that way. So as you can see, this is becoming a very sore point, I think, for a lot of people, the fact that this movie was made, dear white people. And as I said, I would like to see a movie like this do well, and I think a film like this could do well, but I don't think it will be this one, because as I said, it's just so angry. People, don't like angry rhetoric whenever you're trying to institute any kind of change for any group of people. No one likes an angry feminist either. And I know some of you like to refer to me that way as well, but I work very hard in that area to be also inclusive and not try to put people off. Although this is a very sensitive issue, and, whenever you try to promote anybody else, any other ethnicity or gender, there's always some people who will just slam down hard on you to try and put an end to it. So I weather the storm. I'll weather this storm. I've always reviewed all the movies that come out. I think Kevin Hart does a very nice job. I supported Ride Along. I think Best Man Holiday was a great movie. And Think Like a Man 2 was a medium movie. And that's just the honest truth. So I'm curious to what you guys think. Do you think that anger should be removed from this? Do you see where I'm coming from? Or do you feel, it's something that should be, you're angry about and you shouldn't have to hide that? And do you think it's hindering, the change? And do you agree with me, though, that we are making this change? Maybe it's not as fast as you would like, but I think that we're on the way there. And what do you think, do you feel at all guilty going to see movies that have predominantly white casts? Because you, in some ways, might be hurting these films that have predominantly black casts, because white audiences aren't willing to be as open as you are. Does that bother you at all? And also, if you happen to be white and watching this video, does the anger in this trailer put you off at all? But as I said, that Gremlins joke is hilarious, and I think there's a lot of humor here, and I think there's a lot of interest. And I just think if they can make a little bit more of something we can all laugh at, instead of feeling, you're being yelled at, I think that they could really have a hit there, and it would be very interesting. So that's my review of this movie, this trailer. Please write your thoughts down below, and you can check out some more episodes right now.